Welcome if you call this space home. Welcome if you are new in this space. We're so glad to have you. People are going to continue to trickle in throughout the morning. Happy Father's Day to those that are celebrating today. Happy summer solstice. Juneteenth this week. We meet today in this really special moment. So we hope the songs that we picked today, that we're going to sing together, the words from our speaker Carrie, really just settle and sink into your heart. So, if you desire, you're invited to stand with us as we kick off this morning and sing a fun one. We used to do this one a long time ago, a lot. I haven't done it in a few, so I'm really glad to bring it back. It talks about moving from our head into our hearts. And so may that be how we open up our space this morning. Again, welcome. This love that carries me from the head to the heart. You take me on a journey, letting go, getting lost in you. From the head to the heart, you take me on a journey, letting go. over to you, Lord. We'll take the whole to you. Thank you so much for being here with us this morning, spending your Father's Day with us, your summer solstice with us. Part of what we're going to do this morning is kind of unpack Father's Day a little bit. Masculinity, some of those concepts and the ways that has shown up in our world, and maybe for all of us. And one of my favorite sermons that has ever been preached here was one that David gave, and he brought up on stage this game. It's a bop it. Have you ever seen those? Right? Twist it, turn it, bop it, all the things. And the whole point that it stuck with me was that the only way you can actually win that game is by putting it down. You can't beat the game. It just keeps going. And we're going to do a song, and it's a very simple chorus. It says, come and rest in the love of God. And I think there's so much that is that can be wrapped up in a fatherhood narrative or a masculine narrative that is just keep going, keep trying to beat the game. And so the invitation this morning is that you could take a minute, take some deep breaths, allow yourself the room this morning to rest. Maybe you're a father and you're coming in and you need a few deep breaths. Maybe you have a strained relationship with a father and you need rest. Maybe you're trying to navigate a masculine world and you need rest. In whatever way you're coming in this morning, we want to give you the space in the room to find what you need. So we're going to sing a song. Again, the chorus is relatively simple. If it helps, you can sing along. If it helps to just listen, to be sung over, we want to give you the space to do that too. Have you been trying to move a mountain and the mountain it will not move? Have you been struggling to remember somebody's looking out for you? Come and rest, come and rest, oh come and rest in the love of God, yeah. Come and rest, come and rest, come and rest in the love of God. Do you need a mom? Do you need a father? Oh, everyone needs a friend. Are you looking for the way home? Do you want to feel that peace again? Come and rest, come and rest, come and rest in the love of God. Come and rest, come and rest, come and rest in There's a time for all your working. There's a time to put your hand to the plow. And can you hear it? Jesus is singing, oh, come and lay your burdens down. Oh, come and lay your burdens down. Oh, come and lay your burdens down. Come and rest. Come and rest. Come and rest in the love. Come and rest. Come and rest. Won't you rest in the love of God? Come and rest. Come and rest. Won't you rest in the love of God? Come and rest. Come and rest in the love of God. Come and rest. Come and rest. Come and rest in the love of God. Come and rest. Come and rest. Come and rest in the love of God. God of tenderness. A poem from Cole Arthur Riley about fatherhood. God of tenderness, we thank you for our fathers, those with us and those gone before us, those who held us and showed us what it means to belong to one another. In a society that often demands a singular portrait of the masculine, awaken memories and stories of the tenderness of fatherhood, that our narrative would not allow the men in our lives to be reduced. Grant those who have longed for their father more than they have been held by him, the space to lament, to grieve in the ways that they need to. Place people in their lives to remind them that they are no less worthy of love. Liberate them to name their deepest longings, that they would not be rushed from their grieving. May they be held and loved and known. Amen. Y'all sing this with us again? Come and rest. Come and rest. Come and rest in the love of God. Come and rest. Come and rest. Come and rest in the love of God. Thank you for singing with us this morning.
Y'all can have a seat. Sorry if that wasn't clear. Well, good morning. My name is David. I'm one of the pastors here, and this is the part of our morning where I tell you what is up. So, what is up? A few things. First off, if you are new or new-ish, if you're not, I know you hear this every week, but if you are, this might be new information. We have a number of ways for you to get plugged in, for you to learn a little bit more about who we are. And the simplest and most incognito, especially for you introverts out there, is this digital connection card. If you follow this QR code, this is our master QR code. I bet you didn't know we had a master QR code because we never talk about it. But we talk about it a lot. This QR code will take you to a landing page, which is our Connect and Learn page on the website. Right up at the top there, you'll see a link for the connection card, as well as a bunch of other links, ways to learn about what's going on. There's a little carousel, kind of like a Netflix carousel, but without the autoplay, which is super annoying, where you can sign up or register or learn more about all the events going on. So if you are wanting to lean in, to plug in, that Connect and Learn page on the other side of this QR code is going to be your best friend. If you're like so eager to connect, so eager that you find yourself on Sunday morning waking up and like, I would like to go early. I would like to go at least an hour and a half early to Watershed, which is not normal for the people here. Then we have something called Before Sundays. They're a few weeks in so far to a book study of Brian Recker's incredible, excellent book, Hellbent. I'm gonna like shamelessly frame it this way. If you are not showing up at 9 a.m. to be part of this, you're missing out. Like that's what they're telling me. I am here, but I've got like other responsibilities, so I haven't really been able to engage. But no, the energy, the vibes are incredible. People are coming out. Sometimes they're just staying in there. Like it's technically done. The service has started. Like all of you are in here, and they're just chatting in there. So it is totally fine if you've missed the first couple weeks. It is totally fine if you can only show up for like one or two of these. I would encourage you to do it. Even if you don't have the book, don't worry about it. Just show up, be part of it. It's a great way to connect and to plug in. A couple other things going on. So we've talked about this for a few weeks, but it's coming up. It's going to be next week. We're going to have KJ Ramsey with us in partnership with ICU Talks. KJ is going to be with us all weekend in various capacities. So on Friday night, there's a live podcast recording and book signing. Our very own Kim Honeycutt is going to be doing that podcast recording. It's going to be incredible. If she was here, she's helping her in-laws move or something like that. So can anyone sort of be Kim for me in the moment? There we go. All right. Yeah. I didn't want anyone to miss out if this is their first Sunday and they've never experienced Kim. And then the next day, there's going to be a storytelling event in partnership with ICU Talks. And then on Sunday morning, KJ will be with us. I want to be super clear. These are all very different experiences. So if you're sitting there being like, well, I'm just going to do Sunday morning because I'm already here. Okay, that's fine. It's your loss. You're going to be missing out on three, or at least two other just kind of wildly different experiences. And so that's next week. Signups are filling up fast, so check that out. You can, again, find the link and all the information on the other end of our magic QR code. Another thing, so we have an incredibly awesome summer lineup of speakers. Last week, Tommy led us as we celebrated our Pride Sunday. I almost just fell off the stage there. In a few minutes, we're going to welcome our dear friend, Carrie Lattiser, to the stage. She's the director. So, Carrie's been here enough times. I told her, I was like, I don't think I need to like reintroduce you. This will count. KJ, who we mentioned. Sean, our beloved Sean, who we haven't gotten to see because she's been so busy being super important at work. She's going to be back with us. And then the aforementioned, our token straight white guy, Brian Recker, will be with us on the 12th. And it's going to be incredible. And this, if you'll indulge me for a moment, more than you already have, this is a great transition. We talk about giving because we have to. I think you probably understand that at a basic level. This building costs money. The air conditioning costs money. We've just kind of been through and in many ways are still in a campaign raising money to bring Kelsey Smith, our formerly part-time, now full-time children's pastor on. That's awesome. And this is just what I want to frame. And there's a gratitude to this, but also an invitation. So often when we're talking about the kind of the need for giving, we're balancing a handful of tensions. We're balancing the fact that we know that for many of you, this conversation, this kind of conversation, is triggering. It's activating. It's something that has been stewarded poorly in previous contexts. So we're mindful of that. We're mindful of the fact that our economy is not working for everyone right now. And so the last thing that we want to do is sort of frame this through the lens of guilt or shame or obligation. We try to be transparent and honest about the needs. And that kind of gets to the last piece. There's the need and then there's the aspiration. the need piece is it is what it is. This building has a mortgage. It has a roof that's going to need repairs. That's not a sexy ask, but you're going to be hearing us ask about that a lot in the next 8 to 12 months. But then there's this aspirational piece as well. I mean, you saw that lineup of speakers. Whether you realize it or not, that is an incredible lineup of speakers, and we are able to invite some of those folks in precisely because of your generosity. Carrie's going to be up here in a little bit. I don't presume to call myself your pastor. That feels weird to me. We try to be all sort of decentralized and stuff here. Carrie, that's my pastor. That's the person who I look to for clarity, for guidance, and the organization that she leads, that she runs, the Post-Evangelical Collective, aspirationally, as Watershed moves towards health and towards stability, supporting Carrie, supporting organizations like that, supporting the All Good Collective that Tommy leads, supporting our friend Thung Lao in India, who is working to bring mental health resources to people who are traumatized by genocide. Aspirationally, these are the things that we're inviting you to give towards. And so, at a very basic level, I acknowledge that on some level, or at least I hope that on some level, you're giving towards something that you're benefiting from. I don't want this to be purely transactional, but I do hope you're getting something out of this. But even beyond that, I hope you see that when you're giving and when you're supporting this community in whatever way that you're capable of, which isn't just a financial conversation, that is sort of getting projected out into the world in such meaningful ways. Even when you can't see that, just trust, believe if you can, I promise you, it's meaningful work. And so, genuinely, thank you. For those of you who continue to make this possible, I know, we're heading into summer. Summer can sometimes be a lean season for us financially. It is what it is. But for those of you who are able to continue supporting us, thank you. It really is genuinely meaningful. So with that, once again, thank you for being here. This is now about half of your favorite part of the morning, which is, and I'm not meaning to cut it down the middle, but we have noticed that y'all kind of group accordingly. It is past the peace. It is an opportunity for, in whatever way you feel comfortable, to greet the people around you. Take a few moments to do that.
All right. You guys can be seated. Extroverts, wrap it up. Introverts, congratulations. You made it. You did well. Good morning, Watershed. My name is Mitch Hunter. I'm a son. I'm a dad. I'm a bonus dad. I'm a granddad. This is my dad, Glenn Hunter, front row on the left. As a teen, he was a pitcher in the City League of our hometown. I hear he had a mean curveball. My dad has had a lifetime love of sports, playing, coaching, watching from the stands and on TV. Huge Braves fan. Just a quick story. This is my dad's baseball. He would sit in the stands. I mean, not from when he was that age, but, still pretty cool. He would sit in his chair watching the Braves, and he was a pitcher. So he would sit there with this ball, and he would formulate in his hand what he thought the pitcher was going to throw next. And he was mostly right, But anyway, that is one of my prized possessions. It sits on my nightstand. Would you hold this for me? There you go. Give it up for him. How about that? My dad was a Marine. He rose to the rank of staff sergeant, served admirably, had his act together, and then I came along. Little Mitchell Glenn Hunter. I love his priceless expression in this photo, like, oh crap, what am I doing here? He rose, my dad didn't have a role model for being a good dad, unfortunately. His father was an abusive drunkard. But instead of excuses, he decided to be a good dad. Everything I know about being a dad, I learned from watching my dad. Dad passed along what was important to him day by day, just through the way he lived and worked and played and loved. The important stuff and the little stuff, like getting down on the floor and playing with my sister and me. My dad could be a lovable goofball. By the way, this is a must. The shirtless dad pic. Do you guys have one in your collection? The shirtless dad pic. That's a must. And this Watershed is my first guitar. Let's zoom in a bit. Let's zoom in a bit. There it is. 2 pieces of scrap wood, some fishing line, and a rope. Dad made it for me, of course. Yeah. I'd moved up a little bit in guitars through the years. Here he is showing off a golf trophy that he won at our local golf course. When I was 6, he got me a white canvas youth golf bag and 3 clubs. He taught me how to swing. He taught me how to putt. More importantly, he taught me how to enjoy golf. And he always did. He was not the club thrower kind, thank goodness. Here he is playing football with me. This, next slide here, this is the most treasured photo of me and my dad. It just says it all. I got to where I could pass and catch pretty well, especially in the ocean surf, a game that I passed along to my kids. Every one of them, I was either throwing footballs or frisbees to them and trying to time it so that, of course, they were catching it right as a huge wave hit, I got to where I could pass and catch pretty well. In high school, I spent every fall under the Friday night lights on the football field, playing trombone in the marching band. But Dad was still proud. Dad loved to travel. He would lead us on frequent car trips to Chimney Rock, Asheville, the Blue Ridge Parkway, and longer car trips to places like Key West, Texas, and New England. And he loved America's national parks. He instilled a wanderlust in my heart that still burns brightly today. In the words of the late Dan Fogelberg in his song about his dad, my life has been a poor attempt to imitate the man. But that never stopped me from trying. Passing along my love of travel in the mountains. This is my youngest son, Nate, at Linville Falls when he was young. And as a young adult on Black Balsam Knob near the Blue Ridge Parkway, near the Sam Loeb Trail, if anybody out there is Art Loeb Trail. This is my middle son, Drew. Here he is at Linville Falls as a middle schooler, same day as that other pick. And here he is recreating that pick as a young adult. This is one of my favorite places in the mountains, Wiseman's View. Anybody been there, Wiseman's View? That's Table Rock in the background with Hawksbill Mountain right off the camera and Linville Gorge below. I've shared this favorite spot with all my children. This is my oldest son, Jason, and my granddaughter, Hazel, at this same spot. And this is Kim's son, Michael. Some people say stepson, but I refer to him as my bonus son at that same vantage point. I've also passed along my love of the national parks. Here's me and Drew in Yosemite. This is Michael and a friend discovering how cold the river is in Great Smoky Mountains National Park. You feel cold just looking at that picture, don't you? And now coming full circle, my children are now introducing me to some national parks. This is me and Drew in Joshua Tree. I learned from my dad the importance of getting down on the floor to play with my kids. Remembering that not only do we pass along the important things to our kids, but sometimes the opposite is also true. That if it's important to them, then it's important to dad and granddad. From Hot Wheels cars and Legos, to dolls and tea parties, to soccer balls and video games, to dance recitals and Funko Pop figures, to manga comics and anime. And I learned from my dad that it's okay if you're sometimes a bit of a goofball. Shirtless dad pick. Yes. I know it might sound overly simple, but here's the biggest thing I learned from watching my dad. Dads, be the full person God has wired you up to be. Fully, whoever and whatever God has placed in your life's path. And pass it along to the next generation. I'm going to try and get through this. Summer of 2013. Urgency in my heart to a Braves game in Atlanta. So Nate and I, and his son, took Dad to what would end up being. He passed 6 months later. We're so glad that we took the time to do that. Guys, life is short. Life is short. Dads, take the time. Sons, daughters, take the time. Leave behind memories, not regrets. This reading is for the fathers among us. To the men we call dad, may you know that your children do not need a perfect father. They need your presence. May you have the courage to be fully where you are, to listen with attention, to love without distraction, and to bring your whole self to the people entrusted to your care. May you resist the temptation to hide behind busyness, performance, or the belief that your worth is measured by what you produce. May you discover that some of the most important moments of fatherhood are not the grand ones, but the quiet moments when your children know they have your attention. May you be a man who can be known. A man who can speak honestly about his choices, learn from his mistakes, and remain open to growth. May accountability not be a burden you carry, but a pathway towards deeper trust, stronger relationships, and a more wholehearted life. May you be free. Free from the exhausting expectation that you must always be strong, always have the answers, or always carry the weight alone. Free from the stories that tell you tenderness is weakness, vulnerability is failure, or asking for help is something to avoid. May you be free for joy, free for friendship, free for wonder, free for compassion, free for kindness, free to become more fully yourself. And may your children, family, friends, and community be blessed by the gift of a man who is present, accountable, and free. To the fathers among us, to all those who have nurtured, guided, protected, encouraged, and loved others along the way. Thank you. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for growing. Thank you for loving. Thank you for inspiring. For the fathers among us, to the men we call Dad, we love you. Happy Father's Day. Right now, if you're in the role of a dad, expectant dad, stepdad, bonus dad, granddad, or serving in a fathering role in some way to someone, would you please stand right now? Please. Let's honor them. Thank you. You can be seated.
Could have made you so sure of yourself. Whispers in your house, leaves sing with no sound. There's no flowers growing in a place where we are. Flames on my face, he comes and sits beside me, and asks me, what is this place? Outside
Taking back what was lost, finding out what I want. No need for fighting, a new hope is rising. It's where I can't let go, behind any storm, the perfect shelter, until the days get better. It's like an island when I grow tired, the best place I know, 'cause it feels like home. It feels like home. It feels like home. It feels like home. 'Cause it feels like home. It feels like, yeah, it feels like home.
Good morning, Watershed. What a gift to get to be with you all. I was actually really glad I got to be here last week as our kin Tommy brought the message about solidarity in this family of kinship. And the bumper video made me cry. So I was really glad I got to see it last week before I tried to get up here and preach. But I was thinking it was missing a couple of things from my formative years. It probably should have had Carrie Bradshaw from Sex and the City up there. It's like fictive family. For sure, Family Matters. Anybody Family Matters? Full House fans in the room? I was thinking about who would those faces be for my kids, right? Now as they're growing up, what would feel nostalgic to them? And I was like, oh, I guess it would just be a bunch of YouTube celebrities, right? People unboxing, gifts and toys, and what a family to be a part of. The idea of family, the concept of family, can be kind of a complex topic to talk about, right? I love that I get to be a woman on Father's Day weekend. Just the week after the faith tradition that formed me decided that women could not preach, I get to be here and preach on Father's Day with you all. What a gift that is. And when David reached out about this series idea, I'm like, ooh, this idea of kinship, of belonging, what a tricky topic. I want to go straight to the words of Jesus on this. I really want to explore, what does Jesus have to say about the family? And so I went into this text found in Mark 10, and it's one of the more obscure things that we find Jesus say in the text. And actually, each one of the Gospels has some account of what Jesus says here to a group of disciples. And I'm going to start in Luke 10, verse 23. And this is right after Jesus has a rich young man come to him and say, what do I have to do to inherit the kingdom of God? And Jesus says, oh, it's so easy. Just go sell everything you own and then give it away and come back and you will enter into the kingdom of heaven. And the disciples are like, wait, we've given up everything to follow you. And Jesus talks about, a camel going through the eye of a needle. And you're reading this, you're like, what in the world is he talking about? He's speaking in some hyperbole here. He looks at his disciples, and Jesus said, do you have any idea how difficult it is for people who have it all to enter God's kingdom? The disciples couldn't believe what they were hearing, but Jesus kept on. You can't imagine how difficult. I'd say it's easier for a camel to go through a needle's eye than for the rich to get into God's kingdom. That set the disciples back on their heels. Then, who has any chance at all, they asked. Jesus was blunt. No chance at all if you think you can pull it off by yourself. Every chance in the world if you let God do it. Peter tries from another angle. We left everything and followed you. Jesus said, mark my words, no one who sacrifices house, brothers, sisters, mother, father, children, land, whatever, because of me and my message will lose out. They'll get it all back, but multiplied many times in homes and brothers and sisters and mothers and children and land, but also in troubles. And then the bonus of eternal life. This is once again the great reversal. Many who are first will end up last, and the last will end up first. I was talking to a friend this week about this text, and he had a really interesting take. He basically was talking about Carrie, it's all about the idea of marriage and that you're supposed to leave your mother and father and give up your family of origin for your preferred family. And I'm like, well, as a divorced woman, this doesn't have a lot to say to me. And I really set off on a journey then of trying to say, what does this actually have to say to us about the idea of family? And what I found was actually quite profound. See, in the system that Jesus was operating in, the family was also an economic system. The family was a prioritization of how you were supposed to steward your resources. And Jesus is giving us an expanded dynamic here. The dynamics of patronage and kinship in the ancient world were something altogether different. And what Jesus is saying here is radical. He's not attacking the family, but he's offering us this profound reordering of loyalty. It makes family itself reimagined, enlarged, and liberated from empire's designs. What Jesus is saying here is that your family is bigger than blood or by law. If you're going to follow me, you're going to be a part of the family of all living things. So you have to actually reorder your loyalties if you're going to follow Jesus. You have to reimagine what it means to be a part of a family, to be connected. This passage comes on the heels of the rich young ruler's departure and Peter's somewhat self-congratulatory observation that the disciples have left everything to follow Jesus. What's remarkable about Jesus' response is the specificity here. It's a replacement of the structure of family. The family left behind is replaced by a new family, a fictive kinship network of fellow travelers. This new family, this fictive family, this imaginative family of kinship is supposed to offer us the same social and economic and relational functions that the biological family would have offered us. It's a family system that is meant to or intended to reorder the dynamics that are present in the world around the disciples. In this system, a person did not have an individual identity in the meaningful modern sense. Your identity was your family. Your honor was your family's honor. Your debts and obligations were your family's debts and obligations. Gustavo Gutierrez says, Jesus' formation of a new family around the poor, the excluded, is not merely a spiritual metaphor. It's a direct challenge to the family as a unit of economic privilege and social exclusion. Jesus is saying this idea of family that you have is too small. To follow me means being a part of a different sort of order, to be a part of a fictive family. And if I'm honest with you, this is like my favorite thing about what it means to be a part of a church. This whole series is based on this idea that people are leaving the church in droves. And I don't think any of us are really surprised by that, right? When you look at the witness of the church in the West, we're operating at sort of a trust deficit, if you will. But Jesus is inviting us into a bigger imagination for a formation of a new kind of family, one that would look radically different than how we understand family, even in our modern world. It's a structural replacement of that system, what scholars often like to call this fictive kinship, a community that performs all the functions of the biological family, but is organized around shared loyalty to Jesus and the values of God's kingdom. This reordering would say, what does it look like for us as a family to center those who have been lost or left behind, the least of these, the left out? We actually get to embody a different sort of order than the ones that our families may have handed us. I have a friend who is also single and a pastor and talks about how so many people in our churches are also single or divorced or widows or have very complicated family dynamics, and challenges consistently this idea that what if family was bigger than blood or than law? Church is our family by bond. Church is the people that we choose to belong to, this fictive family that we get to be a part of, where our mothers and our brothers and our sisters and our fathers are reimagined in a different structural context. One thing that's super interesting to me when you look at this passage in Luke, in Mark, it becomes even clearer that when we understand sort of the honor-shame dynamic that would have been present in that culture, and I think it has so much to say to how these dynamics impact our families in present culture. To shame your family by defecting from its loyalty network was among the most serious violations of social order imaginable. Family members who joined disputable movements and the Jesus movement were widely regarded as disputable or dangerous or subversive to the social order. It brought shame upon an entire household to defect from these systems and structures of empire and to reorient into new systems and structures of family. It brought shame onto the whole household of your family of origin. How many people do you know in your life or in this church who brought shame onto their family because of their religious affiliations? How many people do you know that got kicked out of or removed from family because of the ways that their understanding of the character and nature of God evolved? How many people do you know that do not have relationships with their families because of their courage to live into the fullness of their identity and who they were made to be in the world? And the church gives us this opportunity to reimagine, to reorient what belonging within a family system looks like. I grew up in the sort of Southern Baptist tradition off and on, and there was a lot of harm in the family that I grew up in. There was addiction and adultery and abuse, and it was so bad when I was 16, I had to be emancipated and move out of that home and get my GED, and over time did some work to try to repair some of those family relationships to the extent that we were able. But essentially, since I was 16 and in some ways before, I lived as sort of an orphan, exiled from what my family tradition was. And part of that journey then later on, as I kind of found my way back to God, I moved up to the suburbs of Chicago and joined a very quote-unquote progressive church that would let women teach and lead. And again, was sort of removed from that family system, that family dynamic. And there was cost associated with that, right? But there was also in that season an enormous rebuilding in my own story. I got to reimagine what family relationships look like in the context of the church. I got to bring on new brothers and sisters in that season. There was a pastor there that was really formative in my journey in a lot of father-like ways, the ways that he saw my gifts and affirmed them and validated them and called them out and made space for them, for women to lead in this cultural context. It was profound the way that this church experience was reparative to what my family experience was. That's the invitation for us to reimagine what the church looks like as fictive family. What does it look like for us to belong inside of a family, inside of the walls of this church? What does it look like for us to be people that extend belonging for the fullness of who people are? I can't help but notice in Pride Month how my gay and lesbian and bisexual and transgender queer siblings model for me what it looks like to own the fullness of who they are, right? Like, what an invitation to let go of the old societal and structural constructs that we were given and to see people embody the fullness of their belovedness. Our queer kin are inviting us into embodying the fullness of our own belovedness. What a gift for us. And this morning, in the midst of Pride Month and on Father's Day and in the midst of Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, I think we have to talk for a minute about the invitation for men to embody their fullness within the fictive family that is the church. We know that the men are having a moment right now. And I don't say this in a condemning way. I say this from a deeply tender place of somebody who paid the cost of a man, that same man that was formative in my journey and invited me into the fullness of my leadership gifts. Also, when I realized, there's some ways that we're not living into who we say we are with how we hold power here. And I spoke up about that. I was obliterated in order to protect the vision of a man in this context, in order to protect power, in order to protect prominence. And it wasn't until dozens of other women came forward with their very same stories before we were sort of believed. And this guy got to retire and sail away, with 7-figure retirement check, leaving just a trail of bodies behind him. And since that experience, I can't unsee how within some models of church, at least in that one in particular, it lacked structural integrity, right? I mean, you can say that you believe something with your words, but if your actions don't align with it, you don't actually believe what you say. And so when I held up a mirror to say, wait, we're not actually embodying what we say we believe, there's a gap here. How do we mine this gap together? I became the threat. What does it look like for us to be in family where we can have conversations about the invitation into fullness? I'm not sure that we are entering into intimacy until we hit rupture. In fact, intimacy comes in the word, not in a spirit of condemnation, but in a spirit of tenderness to look at the moment that the men are having right now. Men's mental health awareness would tell us that addiction rates, that suicide rates, that adultery, that the men are having a hard time right now. And it doesn't surprise me when I think about the ways that they're taught to cut off who they truly are in order to survive within patriarchy, right? Men are emasculated from their own hearts in so many ways and given a vision that requires removal of parts of who they actually are. And this is a serious thing because you can look at, the Epstein files. That's at play in the world. Anyone who struggled to understand this as a construct, you can't look at and struggle to see how whiteness was designed for our country. The Epstein files are actually an Epstein project, is what I call it, right? That's very much still at work in the world and has been from the beginning. If you're in an uproar about the Epstein files, I just have to stop and say, yes, it is atrocious what we're seeing be revealed from the systems and structures our country was built on. Have you ever looked at Christopher Columbus' journal? This is not new. This is who we have always been. And I know that sometimes women can sound dramatic talking about some of these things. I think in this moment, we're not being dramatic enough about what is happening to women and children that is baked into our systems of society. And I think there's an opportunity for us to be honest about this together because there are people shaping the world that we live in. They have a dream and an imagination for this world. And family, we have to have an alternate dream and imagination for the world that is way more compelling than the one that they're inviting us into. In this moment, it is an opportunity for us to make space for men to belong to themselves and belong to the fictive family that is the church. We've done work with the Post-Evangelical Collective, with the International Center for Religious Diplomacy. And it's this organization that's been established globally. They engage in different countries around the world where civil war has broken out. Ethiopia and Sudan and the Congo and other places. And in 2016, for the first time ever, they began to see the signs and symptoms of civil war here in our nation. And they started to wonder, what is it that we need to do to help engage this? And started to explore some of the data around it. They started convening churches in different cities just so that people could meet beyond theological difference and hope that that would help decrease religious violence. And then about a year ago, they came to us and said, do you know the thing that's going to lead to civil war in our country, just based on the data and trend that they kind of had a pulse on? They said it's this war on masculinity. They said, actually, the conservative Christian church becomes like a recruitment center for patriarchal, white supremacist, unquestioned authority, tight gender roles for power and domination and coercion. I never would have believed you if you told me 15 years ago I was going to be standing on stage telling you that there was a group of conservative Christian insurrectionists on the rise. But this is what the data is telling us, that the story, the narrative, is the most compelling narrative available to young white men. They're showing up to the evangelical church for the first time ever in higher rates than women. And women are leaving those contexts, which I perceive to be somewhat of good news. But I think this compels us as the fictive family of Jesus, as this new embodied, new radical way of being the family, of being the church, of embodying kinship, to say, well, then what do we do with the men? How do we help them belong to themselves? How do we help the men belong to one another? How do we help them fully embody who it is that they're intended to be in the world? Because men, I'm not in a place that I want to tell you to go sit down and shut up, that you've had your time. I want to build tables where you can pull up a seat and we can imagine what the world would look like together if we worked together for new ways of exploring what flourishing looks like. I do not want to hinder your fullness. I want your fullness. We need your fullness in this world for it to be what it could be. We need your fullness in the church for this family to be what it is intended to be. One of my favorite Bible scholars who loves to talk about the early church in the New Testament as this fictive family, as this sort of radical reversal of what it means to belong, of what kinship looks like, not just to one another as humans, but to all living things. His name's Willie James Jennings. I kid you not, I keep his commentary on Acts next to my bed. It's like romance. That's why I lay there at night and read it with these hopes and imaginations for the kind of world that he is dreaming, that he tells us the text that the Bible is inviting us into. And he says one of the greatest consequences of the colonizer's Christ. You think about this land being conquered and this version of Jesus that was exported here. He says the greatest consequence of that version of Jesus, this co-opted, colonized version of Christ, is that, he says the Holy Trinity of that version of Christ is the military, the merchant, and the missionary. The military, conquering and dominance and fear, we're seeing that play out around the world right now. The merchant, capitalism and money and extraction, right? And the missionary. This idea that if you follow our God, you're going to be saved from hell somewhere else, not the living hell that we live in right now. This version that Willie James Jennings talks about, the Holy Trinity of the military, the merchant, and the missionary, he says the greatest consequence of that version of spirituality is that it cut women off from the land and it cut women off from their senses. And I think this is true for men. One of the greatest consequences of that version of spirituality, Christian spirituality, and one of the greatest consequences of the system that was imported here, that the Epstein project that's been at work for a really long time here in the Americas, one of the greatest consequences is that it has cut men off from themselves. It has cut men off from their senses. The good news about this idea of the reversal of family here, Jesus' new family, it says it would be very liberating and exhilarating for those people who were most oppressed by the existing system. And I realize it's kind of thin ice to talk about the oppression of white men during Pride Month, Sunday after Juneteenth. But if anybody can do it, perhaps I can suggest it. There are some ways that the system has harmed and oppressed the fullness of men that we need in this moment. This idea of fictive family was precisely good news for those most oppressed by the existing system: the poor, women, children, the ritually unclean, tax collectors, Gentiles, and others who were excluded from the honor system of the patriarchal household. For them, for the people that would be centered in this new order, the dissolution of the old kinship obligations was not loss, it was liberation. The new family offered belonging without bloodline, status without inherited honor, with protection without the patron system. The early church's practice of calling one another brother and sister was not merely sentimental, it was a structural claim. We are now related to one another in ways that supersede and reorganize our biological and social loyalties. This is about our loyalties to the way of Jesus, which Jesus is also pointing back to God's original intention, right? That we are supposed to all belong to one another. God's original word for you was not that you were totally depraved, it was that you were fully beloved first. Jesus is pointing us back to God's original intention, and that is the invitation for us to embody God's original intention, which is this design of mutual flourishing, of belonging to one another, of embodying our belovedness together, of becoming this sort of family that would then center the lost and least and littles and left behind. That's our invitation. It's our vocation, if you will, as the church. Which means we've got to be people that extend those invitations for all people to embody their fullness. Sister Bell Hooks has some words to say about the ways that we have inhibited men from embodying their fullness. She says, learning to wear a mask, that word already embedded in the term masculinity, is the first lesson in patriarchal masculinity that a boy learns. He learns that his core feelings cannot be expressed if they do not conform to the acceptable behaviors sexism defines as male. Asked to give up the true self in order to realize the patriarchal ideal, boys learn self-betrayal early and are rewarded for these acts of what she calls soul murder. She goes on to say that if you, as the parent, don't cut your son off from his heart, don't worry, the men out in culture and society will do it for you. What are the parts of you that you have had to cut off to survive? What are the parts of you that you have had to hide away or shut away because your fullness was not welcome as a kid or as an adult? Your needs, your tenderness, what are the parts of you that you had to leave behind? I was with some friends recently in the city of Chicago. We were walking like in the busy streets, on the sidewalks and kind of dodging in and out of people. And it was two guys, much bigger than me. I finally was like, I'm just going to get in here behind one of you and what's it called when you're driving and you kind of get behind a car and track with them, Yeah, I'm just going to draft with you. And one of them was like, oh, okay, well, I'm not ever sure. Am I supposed to get in front of you, or am I lead, or am I supposed to walk behind you, or do I let you go first? I really want to be honoring, and I'm not quite sure how to do it. And I was like, oh, that sounds like an invitation. Listen, I take so many shoulders as a woman. Anytime you want to take a shoulder from me, you're welcome to. What a gift that he offered an invitation. I'm not exactly sure what it is that you want from me, but I want to help, so let me know how I can help. It was actually such a moment of vulnerability. Later in that same conversation with friends, we were talking about the masculinity crisis. We had met to get together to talk about what is an alternative vision for masculinity that the church gets to compel people towards in our time. What would be more compelling than that version of masculinity that the conservative Christian church, the unquestioned gender roles, the authority, the hierarchy, what would be a more profound invitation for men? And we're having these conversations, and the first one is well, who helps the men? Is it our job to make space to center the men? Is it the men's job to get together to make space to do that? How do we do that in the context of family? And I kept pushing on, what does it look like for us to connect men with what it is that they really want? And a friend of mine was like, I don't know, Carrie, that sounds kind of dangerous. You're just going to let men go after whatever it is they want. Just let them go after, just let them take whatever they want. She's acting she's trying to push back on what I'm saying. Actually, what would happen in this moment if men were able to connect with what is it that you really want? Not a false imitation of intimacy on a screen. Family, there's men going to SA academies to learn how to sexually assault their spouses. There's something deeper that men want to be connected to than that. What is it that you really want? One of my friends who was a part of this conversation grew up, her dad worked in Promise Keepers. Do any of you remember Promise Keepers? Like this movement, right, of sort of conservative movement, gathering men, helping them wrestle through what does it mean to be a man, and like football stadiums full of men. And so we were talking about some of that, what was good about that, what was harmful about that, and we decided the 2026 version would be, what if we started Pleasure Keepers? And it was a place for men to get in touch with pleasure and desire. And what is it that you really want? Because being disconnected from what it is that you really want will cause you to settle for a lot of cheap substitutes. Men, we need you in your wholeness. We need you in your fullness. And the thing that I perceive in my relationships with men, because I love them so much, the thing that I perceive is a stumbling block to us getting there is shame. If you came from a conservative faith tradition or were baptized into patriarchal understandings of the world in ways that probably all of us were, shame is like the number one force of evil that's at work in the world. Dan Allender actually says it is the most evil force in the world. Shame that would have you believe that you are bad, that you are broken, that something is fundamentally flawed and wrong with you. That, first of all, is not what the loving mystery that holds all things together says about you. That is not what God calls you. You were born beloved, and the invitation is for you to embody the fullness of that belovedness. But here's what I perceive happens in relationships. I made a little video on social media this week actually asking this question because I was in a relationship with a man, and I ended it because of his actions, and he kept calling me saying, but you don't understand my intent. That wasn't my intent. And I'm like, I'm not sure that it matters what your intent was. Your actions communicated something. Your actions showed me what you believed, even if that's different than what you intended. And I asked men on social media, like, help me understand what you mean when you say, that wasn't my intention. And one of my favorite Instagram therapists, you gotta love a good Instagram therapist, right? He said, most people are probably, and lots of men weighed in with lovely, beautiful things, and I learned from all of them. But this therapist weighed in and he said, when I say that wasn't my intent, usually what it is self-protection. Because I don't wanna confront the harm or the pain that I caused. And if you make me see your pain, I'm afraid I'm going to be consumed by it because I'm not in touch with my own. Shame becomes a force that locks down, that shuts down, that forces people, all people, but specifically men, into this place of self-protection. When I'm over here saying, if I'm your sister, and this is who you say you are, and you're not living into who you say you are, I think the most loving thing is to reflect that back to you. How do I do that in a way that doesn't elicit shame, but invitation? What does that look like? I have a really dear friend who was talking about, like, yeah, we have some trans siblings in our church, and he was saying, sometimes I get a little bit uncomfortable because I don't want to, like, mess up and use the wrong pronoun or use the wrong word or be offensive, and, like, the last thing I want to be, is called homophobic, or, and I was like, oh, that sounds really scary to imagine being misunderstood. What's scarier, getting it wrong? Or getting it wrong and not having somebody love you enough to tell you? What does it look like for us to love one another enough to say, hey, this is who I see that you are, and you're not fully living into that. Here is an invitation. Like, love is a mirror. It reflects back. My kids and I talk about this all the time, and we'll say, people tend to wear the crown you give them. What does it look like for us to offer invitations for one another, and specifically in this moment for men to live into their fullness, to come home to themselves? What does it look like for the church as fictive family, as true kinship, to be a place that men get to remember the parts of themselves that they had to sever elsewhere in order to belong? What does it look like for the church to be this place of belonging? For us to embody the work of repair, for us to reorient this imagination for what the church is. Jesus is not anti-family. Jesus is anti-family as empire. Empire would have men cut themselves off from their senses, from their softness, from their tenderness, and they would do just about anything to hold down their pain. And like a beach ball, you push it under the water and then it pops up when you least want it to. And that's what happens typically, men. It pops up and gets inflicted on the people that you love most. I love to talk about when I'm with you all, and I probably say it every time I preach, if it's hysterical, it's historical, right? And I'm aware that the word hysteria is often used to write off emotionality in women. And I've added to the saying that if it's hostile, it's historical. And usually there's something that wants to be tended. If you're in conflict or in a situation with somebody and your internal response doesn't match the person in front of you, it's probably an invitation to get curious about what is this pain that's getting triggered inside of me? And what does it look like for me to show up with humility to that, to listen, to understand, instead of listen to my shame and double down on self-protection? We need you, men, in your wholeness, in your fullness, as a part of this new family that Jesus is offering, this fictive kinship community organized not by blood and honor and hierarchy, but around the shared loyalty to the way of Jesus, to the kingdom of God, to the reciprocation and participation in reciprocity with all living things. It's an invitation for each one of us to own our stories, for us to own our place in this fictive family my kids and I like to call framily, right? When your friends become your family. Men, you are not too much. You are not enough. You are not behind schedule. You are a human being made in the image of God, which means that you were made for love, that you were made by love, that you were made to embody your belovedness. And what we want and what we need from you, not the kind of love that gets earned or proved, not the kind of love that tries to manage somebody else and their emotions, the kind of love that brings the fullness of who you are to bear in community, in family, the place that you can receive love for those parts that you had to sever in order to belong. They belong here. You belong here. We belong to one another. Would you pray with me? Creator God, thank you that it is your very image in us that creates the idea of belonging. Thank you that your belonging is baked into all of creation. It's baked into the fibers of who we are. Thank you that there's nothing that we could ever do that would cause us to fall outside of your love. And thank you that you've given us the church as the family that gets to embody that love to one another. Would you, by your Spirit, invite us more fully into embodying the fullness of our belovedness? Would this be a place of remembering the parts we've had to cut off to belong? Of repairing what it looks like to be a part of your fictive family, of reorienting what it looks like for us to be a place of belonging for those who are lost, the least, the left out, and the littles. God, would your Spirit come and show us what it looks like to belong to you, to belong to one another, and to belong more deeply to ourselves in this family. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
This last song that we're going to do is a mashup of two songs. And there's a line in it that says, "You're never going to let me down." And I know that can be really, really hard to sing. I just want to say, what if we sang it together aspirationally? That when we show up to each other as home, as belonging, as kin, there's no way that we can let each other down. I invite you to take these next moments in however you need, and I hope that you find something in you to join us, your voices together as we close out today. 'Cause you feel like home to me, to me, to me. You're everywhere, you're everything I breathe. You feel like home to me, to me, to me. You're everywhere, you're everything I breathe. Spent my whole life chasing constellations, wishing on stars that never stayed. Then I found you in stillness, and I stopped running away. And I stopped running away. 'Cause you feel like home to me, to me, to me. You're everywhere, you're everything I breathe. 'Cause you feel like home to me, to me, to me. You're everywhere, you're everything I need. There's no map for where we're going, but that's what makes it real. Yeah, His love is stitched with patience. Oh, and I'm proud the starting place is our goodness that you put into us with your breath of life, that we breathe between and through and on each other. Help us to root into our imaginations of this kingdom of community where we all belong, where we all contribute, where we all find meaning and purpose and togetherness for the broken places in our hearts. Thank you for the friends that consider us kin from afar. Thank you for the people who call this space home. And as we go about our day ahead, may we remember that goodness. May we carry it out into the interactions that we'll meet. May we be people of invitation. We thank you. We thank you for your goodness. We thank you for each other. We thank you for this moment that we get to breathe and be. So may you bless our movements as we depart, because you said it was good. It's in your name we pray. Amen. See y'all next week. Don't forget, there's pastries in the back. Happy Father's Day. Happy solstice. We love y'all.